we are for another Quantum Identity, the podcast that explores how you got from where you were to who you are today. And on our show, we have an amazing coach, an author, and someone who has an amazing transformation story to share with us, Cellie Mayol. Cellie, welcome to Quantum Identity.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
How are you today? What have you been up to lately?
Well, today I'm great. And what I've been up to lately is I'm getting ready to pilot my Happiness by Design program, which is focused on the science of self. You know, we break down happiness as an individual component. So we have a few different things like emotional, financial, intellectual, etc. And we break each component down so people can learn practical tips and tools to apply happiness and create the happiness that they want in their lives.
That's awesome, because I think, you know, as Buddha once said, everybody wants to be happy, right? There's not like anyone that you would ask, like, do you want to be happy? No, I don't. So everyone has got this inherent pursuit of happiness, but people just, it's somewhat elusive sometimes. They don't know how to create it. So tell us a little bit about like your method. What can people expect on your program?
Well, for me, happiness is knowing who I am. It's my self-awareness level. So what we do is we aim to create self-awareness. We aim to create to find who you are intimately. So that way you know what your real your purpose is, your passions. We go through all of that. We go through core values. You know, we take each section of wellness and we break it down so it's practical. So you learn how to meditate or deep breathing, or you learn, and we're going to teach journaling and things of that nature. So everything from managing emotions, because no emotion is negative. They all aim to teach us something, all the way through, you know, practical things like the physical aspects, like nutrition and health. So you get a little bit of everything with it. I'm really excited. Something I've really put my heart and soul into.
So how long have you been working on this program, and like, what does it take to prepare a program like this? Like what's involved? How does someone create and launch a program like this?
Well, I've been working on this for, I want to say, about 9 months. From trying out different techniques on myself and doing the different things that I've taught myself to get where I am today, to learning about other strengths and other techniques that may be able to help other people. And I found some really interesting stuff in all my research and studies. I just wanted to bring the most comprehensive self-awareness tool to people so that way they can better themselves, because at the end of the day, it's how bad do you want it? How bad do you want to create the life you want to live? How bad do you want to flourish? And that's truly my desire for everybody. I want everybody to flourish and live the life they love.
Do you think everybody can flourish?
Absolutely.
Is happiness,
to me,
yeah, I was going to say, is happiness accessible to everybody?
Absolutely. How bad do you want it? How bad do you want to control your emotions? How bad do you want to create your destiny? How bad do you want to live your purpose? You get up every day and you go to work. Why wouldn't you want to get up every day and go to work for yourself, or go to work on your passion? You love what you do, and then that trickles down into everything else you do. You know, you love being with your family more. You love doing hobbies more. You love just being outside more. And once you start to create that in yourself, it projects outward.
Mm-hmm. And what would you say to people that are maybe stuck in a job they hate or in their rut, and they can't get out for financial reasons? They're married to the paycheck. They have family to support. Maybe they're a carer, and they don't necessarily see that glimmer of hope. They don't know. They don't believe it's accessible to them. They don't know how to achieve it. You know, how can they start their transition out of their situation into a better situation?
Well, it starts with a plan. You know, every goal, every dream of yours is it's not a goal, it's not a plan until you put some action behind it. So start with the smallest step. how much money do you need to make to leave? And figure out what you need to do to get there. So you start slowly. And they say at the beginning, every entrepreneur works 100 hours for themselves, so they don't have to work 40 for somebody else. And at first, that's what you're going to have to do. You have to put in the work. But again, it goes back to my favorite question in the world: how bad do you want it? So, there's always ways to have a strategic plan. And once you have that plan in place, you can, modify it as you go. But that way, at least you have an exit plan. You have a strategy. And then you can start to see the light. And as you get a little closer and you celebrate those little wins, the light gets bigger and bigger and bigger until finally you're like, yes, I got this. And you have the confidence to move forward in your passions and your purpose.
And on your program, do you also have a way of holding people accountable?
Yes, we have a private Facebook group, so all the people in the program can actually talk to each other, hold each other accountable. I want to create a safe space for everybody to grow. You can't grow. You're not supposed to. I don't think you're supposed to grow by yourself. We're meant to connect with others. We're meant to live life with others. Yep. And this way, I'm teaching people how to connect on a very personal level. But then that connection they can take elsewhere. They can take it to their jobs. They can take these tools to their family. And, it's everything from managing your emotions to getting out and being outside for 30 minutes a day. It's the little things, and those little things are what adds up, and that's what changes.
That's great. That's interesting. And so tell us a little bit about where do you come from? What got you to this place? And, quantum identity is, on this program, we're exploring transformation. So tell us a little bit about your transformation and who were you before all of this?
So my transformation, I really would have to say, began in 2011 when I decided to leave my alcoholic ex-husband. I was a CFO making six figures. I thought I had it all, but I really had nothing. And once I left him and I lost my job, I had to make money somehow. And unfortunately, I used my gift of gab and my connection skills for the wrong things, and I turned to selling drugs. It progressively got bigger and bigger for a few years until I got arrested for trafficking, and I hit rock bottom. I was facing 50 years at least, with hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines. It really knocks you to your core, because at the time I had an 8-year-old daughter. So for me, I was providing for my family, but not a smart way. I wasn't using anything, not even my passions or my purpose, because I knew who I was supposed to be when I was younger, and I turned away from all of that. Spending 50 years, I would have gotten out of jail if I had the ability to get out in my 80s. What life is that? So I made a really big promise to myself and to God, and I said, if you give me one more chance and all of this stuff gets to the side, I'll deal with the consequences. Just get me out of here. I'm going to change the world. And I got my chance. I got probation, and that was for 4.5 years. And it was very grueling, but I got my chance. And when I got out, I went and got a job because I needed to make some money, and I wasn't going to go back to what I knew. So I went back and I became a CFO again. And I got pregnant. I had a son. And when I got back from my maternity leave, I was working 75 hours a week, and I hated everything I did. It was miserable. So I put in my 2 weeks, and I started my own business. And that's how the coaching started. I was just doing business consulting because I wanted to give away all the knowledge that I had, but on my terms. And how else to do it but with my degree and my previous experience? But then all my entrepreneurs were coming to me asking, how was I always so energetic? How was I always so happy and always so fulfilled? And I said, because I wake up every day and I love what I do. And I was coaching without being a coach and didn't realize it because I was asking powerful questions and making sure that they understood the steps they needed to do to get where they wanted to go. And I saw that I really was good at strategic planning through all this. And I started looking up coaching because somebody mentioned to me that I should become a coach. So I looked up coaching and I was like, oh, this sounds like what I'm doing already, just a different direction. And as I started to learn more about coaching, taking classes, going to webinars, I started realizing I wanted to teach people transformation. I wanted to show people you can have chance after chance after chance to redevelop yourself, to become a new person, a new soul. You can change the world. How bad do you want to change it? How bad do you want to be different? And the more that I started to find my soul's purpose, the more aligned I became with that, and the people started to come to me. I started teaching everything from business to emotional intelligence, and everything I had in my head. I started creating workshops and classes, and I couldn't get in front of enough people at enough times. And the more people that I would talk to, it poured into me so much because I knew I was on the right path. And as I continued on my transformation and seeing all of these things, that's how I became just a coach. Now I do coaching. I do a little consulting still because I love business. But now I teach people transformation. Now I show them, hey, everybody deserves a second chance. How bad do you want it? You know, it's my favorite question. I tell everybody everything. You can have anything you want. How bad do you want to work for it? How bad do you want to change? How bad do you want that new position? How bad do you want that relationship? Let me show you the right tools. And what I've realized is when you give people the space to create themselves, they always flourish. They always can't believe what's inside of them that they didn't want to tap into because they were complacent. They were comfortable. And I love seeing people just that question mark on top of their heads. They get excited and they're like, yes, they get it. And you see them lean in and you see the body language change. It's awesome. I love seeing transformation in others.
That's quite a story you have there. And you know what? If you don't mind, I'd like to ask you a little bit more about the dark, okay? Because the light, in a sense, is the easiest part of life.
Yep.
Right? Everyone can talk about success stories, but success is a lot, for me, it's less interesting than the darkness, because in the darkness is where transformation is born.
Yes.
Right. So what was the darkest moment of your life in that transformation, and what did that teach you?
The darkest moment was the realization that I might spend the rest of my life in jail, and I might not see my daughter grow up, and I might lose everything and everybody in my life, even though I was supposed to lose the majority of them, but the important people. And that rocked me to my core. You know, I felt disconnected from everything and everybody. And it was such a dark place. It taught me so much about myself that I didn't know. And it brought me back to who I wanted to be. I did a lot of ego work and a lot of...
What did you learn specifically about yourself? You said it taught you about yourself. What did you learn about yourself?
That I have a lot of gifts. Like, one, I'm a connector. I love to connect others, and I love to help them see how their emotions and their feelings and who they are and who they wanted to be can happen. It taught me that I'm an extremely spiritual person, and I need to constantly connect to that source, because every day is a new day. Every day is a new opportunity. And I was completely blinded by that before. I took life for granted. You know, I realized in jail that I'm an extremely strong individual, and I'm extremely resilient. And that resiliency is what got me through all of this, because it was extremely trying. You know, you're constantly, even out of it, even when I got out of jail, you're on probation. So you're checking up on a probation officer come by your house whenever they want. They can drug test you whenever they want. You have to pay fees by a certain time, and those fees are really expensive. You know, so it feels like it's one roadblock on top of another on top of another. And learning to manage my emotions was one of the key factors that being in jail and being on probation taught me, because it kept my mind on the prize. It kept my mind on my goals. And it kept my mind focused that, you know, I want to change the world, and I'm going to get through this, because I'm not going to go back to where I was, because I don't serve anybody anywhere doing that. So
it's pretty amazing, though. But your story is a fascinating one, because a lot of the times you have like transformations which are from A to B, right? But yours is more like from A to B to C, right? A to B to C. It's like a V shape, because before you were already a successful CFO,
Yes.
corporate environment. That's an educated person in a very qualified leadership position in a corporation. So how does someone of that stature consider drug dealing actually a viable and a good option in their?
Um,
I would like to understand the mindset that got you from A to B.
because it really wasn't I mean, it was a drop in morals, I guess, but money-wise, it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Money-wise, I was making the same amount of money, and
Good money.
it was great money.
Oh, God.
That's what kept me there.
I should try myself.
No, you don't. Trust me. The consequences are far too great.
No, I've given up. Those days are long gone.
So, it taught me a lot. I mean, it showed me the skill. Like, I have skills that I've translated from dealing into real life. Like, I teach people how to network instead of instead of doing these connections through middlemans and stuff. So because of all of the things that I learned about myself and the growth mindset that I would like to inspire in others, I started a nonprofit. And I took that nonprofit and I teach entrepreneurship, a growth mindset, and transformation to ex-offenders. Any ex-offender, any age, I want to show them that they can change too. How bad do they want it? Everybody deserves a second chance. And I want to break that stigma. So it's overlapped. These changes in me have exploded into every facet and every area of my life, because I can't help but want to show other people that they can change. And I can show them how. They just have to put in the work for it.
That's awesome. And so is that, who do you work with now? Who's your ideal client, and who are you offering your transformational services to?
Anybody who wants to make a deep change in their life, really. I mean, it can be a man, woman, it can be a teenager to an older person. It's how bad do you want to make the change, and do you want to put in the work for it? Anybody can change your life at any given time. I just read an article the other day about a lady who is in World War II. She left and came back, finished her degree at 98 years old and graduated. So anybody can do anything. You just have to have the right tools. And because I've already lived so much of these, I've created a lot of tools and used other tools that help me. And that's how I teach other people the transformation that was so profound in my life.
Mm-hmm. And so who are your heroes? Who do you look up to in terms of maybe some thought leaders or people around? Who inspires you?
Eckhart Tolle, Mel Robbins,
Yeah.
Les Brown. I have some personal friends who are like my soul sisters that are super inspiring. One of my friends, Iris, the way she carries herself. Then there are people like Tim Ferriss, whose advice on entrepreneurship is phenomenal, and I've applied principles to my own personal business, and it's been great. So it comes from a lot of varied sources. Everything from spiritual all the way through business, I find interesting advice everywhere, because good advice is always good advice if you know how to apply it in your life. But you always want to take advice from people that you look up to. So I'm always constantly on the prowl for new thought leaders. And right now, like, I'm in a coaching summit, and we've had everybody from Daniel Goleman from Emotional Intelligence to Simon Sinek, and they're profound. They just have a concept on life and emotional intelligence, like Adam Grant. They all have such emotionally intelligent thoughts, and they're such strong leaders. You can't help but learn from them to see how they're changing and how they're transforming their world.
And if you could go back in time to maybe, the beginning or before your transformation, with the self that you are now, what would you say to your younger self?
Oof. I would tell her to go back to basics. Figure out who you are. Give yourself the space to heal. Because that's the one thing I just kept piling on top and piling on top. That's what I used the drugs for. I piled everything on top so I didn't have to deal with my emotions. I didn't have to deal with the feelings of hurt, of feeling neglected and abandoned, of left, and all of those things that they taught me who I was and how strong I could be. You know, I would have told myself not to run anymore. It's not worth it. And that's all I did, and that's what got me into the mess that I'm in. But I'm also grateful for that mess, because without that mess, I don't know if I would have found who I was again.
That's awesome. Thank you. And thank you for your time today. I think this is a good place to sort of wrap it all up. But I want to wrap it all up with one last question for you.
Awesome.
And that is, for anyone who's listening or watching on YouTube, what would you like them to take away from your story? And what would you like them to do? What can they do right now?
Well, I have a Calendly link that they can schedule a free 30-minute discovery call to talk about goals, to talk about what transformation, and see if we create some powerful insight there. But what I'd like everybody to take away is that you can change. You can completely transform your life and flourish in every aspect and love your life. But you have to ask yourself, how bad do you want it? How bad do you want to create that life? How bad do you want to live your purpose?
That's awesome. Thank you. And so for the viewers on YouTube, we'll leave the link to Kelly's website down below. Cellie Mayol, I want to thank you for your honesty and sharing your story. It was, you know, it's going to be a hard to beat story, this one, from A to B to C. Three-pronged approach. Thank you for your time and for joining us on Quantum Identity.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.